Hey guys, Andrew Esquivel here, back with another review, and today I'm going to be reviewing the XtremeVision LED headlight conversion kit to convert your halogen headlights in your vehicle over to LEDs. Now, first off, let's go over the specs really quick. We are once again working with the infamous 9007 socket, which is known for having compatibility issues with aftermarket products. We'll explain in a minute why that is. Now, each bulb produces 8,000 lumens and pulls 36 watts. They have a color temperature of 6,500 Kelvin and have an estimated lifetime of 30,000 plus hours. So, now that we got the specs out of the way, let's look at the bulb itself. You'll see we have one that's already assembled and ready to go. And just like with all 9007 socket headlights, we have a circular retainer lock that needs to be in place in order for this to keep the bulb from falling out of the socket. Now, this is where we have a lot of problems with aftermarket products. Is generally we have an issue with getting it in there because, well, we have to remove the gasket. And on top of that, there has to be enough clearance in between this gasket and the heat sink to allow the circular retainer lock to fit. Because if we take one of the retainer locks, you'll see we have several millimeters of gap that comes standard. Now, in some cases, you would file them down, but thankfully, in this case, there's no modification to the retainer lock necessary. So, how do we get them on? Well, normally there's a clever little way of getting them on, like twisting the gasket and pushing up, and generally, that seems to be what most LEDs go for, but in this particular case, they've gone for a more secure design, which is also a little less convenient. This is a little screw. This is the only screw that you need to undo. It is undone by a really tiny Allen wrench, which they actually kindly provide. So, basically, we need to remove this screw. Okay, so we got the little screw out, and I just want to give fair warning, that thing is super tiny, and I've already dropped these screws before, and they're a pain to find on the floor, so be careful about that. Now, as we undo the screw, we see that there are multiple holes on this gasket, and that's because the bulb can only fit into the socket of the headlight assembly one way. And in order to make the beam pattern more accurate, you're able to twist 1/4 rotation wise so that in relation to the gasket, the bulb has actually turned. So you want to experiment with what pattern looks best before you just decide that you're going to stick with one particular position. So, other LEDs have come up with much more simple ways of adjusting like this instead of having to use a screw, but they decided to go for secure. So that's what we're gonna do, I guess. Honestly, this thing is held in with friction pretty well, so you can adjust it at your leisure, and then once you find the right pattern, then screw it in. But for right now, let's just kind of show you how everything gets assembled the rest of the way. So we got the circular retainer lock on and in place. Next, all we got to do is put the gasket back down. And like I said, there's a lot of friction that holds this thing in, so it's actually more of a two-hand job. And with it down and in place, all you would do at this point is screw it in. Although, like I said before, perhaps screwing it in right now is not the best thing to do, because we can adjust the beam pattern by twisting it once you put it inside of the headlight unit. So let's kind of do that. What I will be showing in the video will be after I've adjusted it. So I'm not going to show you me adjusting it, because that's going to take a while. But I will do the rest of the review, like I said, already adjusted. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we are outside, and these are the low beams projected onto my garage. Now, looking at it from here, personally, it looks relatively decently diffused. It's kind of hard to say. Let's go ahead and turn on the high beams. The high beams, I mean, they're a little brighter. Low, high. Well, this is just the door test. Now let's actually go see what it looks like on the road in real life. Alright, so I am on the same stretch of road that I test all my LED headlight conversion kits on, and we are just sitting here with the low beams on. So let's talk about what the light looks like in real life down a stretch of road. First off, I want to say I'm actually somewhat impressed with the light diffusion. I would say it's almost as good as the four-sided LED lights that I've tried. And there's a good reason for that, and I'll explain in a minute, but as far as patchiness or scatteredness, it's spot on. There's no dark spots or patchy spots. It's actually doing really well. So let's try high beams. High beams kind of leave a little to be desired. They don't throw distance very far, and not sure why that is. But anywho, let's go ahead and take them out on a drive and see just how well they actually do. Okay, so what we are going to do is drive down the same route that I test every single pair of headlights that I try. Now, right here is just a general road, good stretch, goes down for quite some ways with some rather dim street lights. But what we're going to do is go to an area where there is zero assisted lights, meaning there's no street lights, and we'll be able to see just the pure performance of these LEDs without any other light sources kind of interfering with the test. So just keep on going, and we are almost there. Coming up on a turn in just a few seconds, and from here we'll be able to see just how good these can do on their own. Okay, so we are on this dark stretch of road with no lights, right? So these are the low beams, and as far as visibility goes, the throw distance is actually pretty good. Usable, actually. A good 50-60 feet out. Now this is low beam. If I turn on high beam, it's making it a little brighter on the left and right, kind of widening the beam angle, but it really isn't assisting the throw distance, which is kind of disappointing. When you put on high beams, it's because you want to see farther down the road, not necessarily more to your left and right. So what we're going to do is keep it on high beams down this dark road, and we're going to go down and turn on another road. And what I'm going to do on that road is turn the lights from high beam to low beam back and forth, and I'll narrate as I do it so you know which mode that it's on, so you can gauge for yourself the difference between the two. So we are now going to take a right, and the street we're looking for is just down this road. Believe it or not, I have to watch out for possums right now, because there's a bunch of possums out at the moment. We don't normally get possums. Anywho, we're coming up on the area. I mean, as I drive along, I feel really comfortable with these lights on low beam. It's just high beam doesn't really seem to do much of anything, and yes, I've adjusted for high beam to make it throw as far as it goes. Okay, so anywho, we are on the road where I'm going to switch back and forth. So this is low beam, high beam, 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 low beam, high beam. Go back to low beam. Okay, now we're back on low beam. Alright, so that is the drive around, and now is when I give my final thoughts on the whole thing here. So, I'm delightfully surprised to see how well the light is diffused with these. I was not expecting a triangular design to do this well. But there is a reason why designs like this do much better in a reflector headlight unit rather than those two-sided LEDs that try and mimic something like this. So, when we have a reflector unit, it's generally designed to work with a halogen light bulb. Now, halogen light bulbs produce light in all directions from its center, meaning it's a whole 360 degrees of light that it puts out. LEDs rely on diodes, which are, for the most part, very, very directional. Now, in order to try and mimic a halogen headlight, this means you'd have to have diodes in a variety of positions to try and push out light in all the directions that a halogen headlight would. This is why in reflector units like mine, bulbs that try and mimic halogens rather than doing their own thing perform the best. Now, this is the first three-sided LED that has actually worked very well. I have seen other three-sided LEDs out there, but they were not equilateral triangular designs. They were isosceles, which ultimately led to dark spots because it wasn't even distribution of light, and that was its downfall. This pair of headlights actually appears to be an equilateral triangle, meaning the angles on all three corners of the light where the diodes are in relation to each other is the same angle all around, which means it's trying to produce light as evenly as it can rather than focusing on doing some other weird kind of thing that the other ones that I have tried do. Now, that being said, I have tested four-sided cob lights, which is a type of style of LED that diffuse extremely well. But the problem is, the more diodes you have, the more power you have to split between per bulb. With three sides, this means that I have to split the output of power between three sets of diodes. That can severely limit the brightness because you have to choose at this point between light distribution and diffusion versus throw distance and overall brightness. Unfortunately, there is not a perfect design yet, but companies need to start taking the three- and four-sided designs more seriously. There's a ton of two-sided designs that fail miserably. The thing is, a two-sided LED design could work if you're using a projector unit. Projectors have a way of focusing the beam in a particular manner, where reflectors, they don't work the same way, and because of that, we need LEDs to mimic halogens. So these three-sided and four-sided bulbs mimic halogens really well. It's just we need really efficient diodes on there to be able to put out more light, because in reality these really aren't that bright. However, I will give these bulbs this. They diffuse really well. They're not using these really large diodes LEDs that I've seen on some of the cob lights, they're using a bunch of small diodes put together on each panel for all 3 panels per bulb. And whatever they've done it so that the output of light, even on low beam, is very decent. It's very usable. I'm actually surprised. But that also means the high beams aren't really going to be any much better than the low beams if the low beams are essentially just as bright as the high beams in this case, which is a little disappointing. And we also have the throw distance issue. When you put high beams on, it's because you want to see further down the road, and I still have to admit my Sylvania Silver Star halogens do throw light down the road better than these do, which is unfortunate, but this is a serious contender for your attention. I almost never say that. I have tested so many LEDs, and there's only been 2 that have been getting my attention. These ones in particular have actually performed better, in my opinion, than the 4-sided cob light that I tried. Diffusion is just as good, but brightness and throw distance is definitely better. And we're starting to get close. We're getting really, really close to the technology being to where it needs to be. But it needs to be a multi-sided, not just 2-sided, but 3- or 4-sided type of design in order to achieve what we need. So, do I recommend these? I say give it a try. If you have Amazon Prime, it is available on Amazon Prime. And if you have Prime, that means you can get it either same day or 2-day shipping. And if they don't work, you can return it for free. They give you a pre-printed shipping label that you can, I'm sorry, not pre-printed, but they give you a return shipping label that will not cost you anything if you're a Prime member. So for that reason, I would say give these a try. These are really better than I expected they would be. So yeah, there's only 2 bulbs I've ever said that about. So anywho, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, show your friends, check out my other videos. I got plenty of them, and as always, I will see you next time. Drive safe.